Here we go. Welcome to the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia. Today is Wednesday, October 21st. Joining us today once again from Corner of the Galaxy, we've got Josh Guesman. Josh, how you doing?
I'm good, doing good, Gio. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Like I was mentioning, just watching a little bit of Dodgers World Series baseball. You know, they won yesterday's game. They're currently losing, but we'll see if they bounce back. But I mean, everything's good. Big week ahead of us. You know, you got the El Tráfico coming up this weekend, so it's exciting.
Is it a big week? Is it big that these two teams are playing each other for the fourth time this season?
I think it's
I
just
think
big in
some.
sports. You know, big
Okay,
that we have sports and everything that we got going on as well.
okay, I'll agree with that 100%. LA, the center of the sports universe in the United
Exactly.
States, so I will agree with you on that 100%. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and then
a good
also,
thing.
don't forget if you haven't voted, make sure to go vote. You know, right here, letting people know.
I already voted. I'm
Me
done.
too. Me
Yeah,
too.
so
Me too.
I'm just waiting for the sticker. I'm gonna wear the sticker on like voting day so I can be with
Yeah,
everybody else. But
yeah.
I
I
did
got
it.
I got my sticker, but I was like, I'm just gonna wait. Like you said, I'll just wait till what is it, November 3rd, November
Third, yeah,
4th,
the third. Yeah, I
the
think it's
third.
third.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I'll just wait till the third until to rock this sticker. But I got it. I got it.
Good, good, good. Glad everybody's doing their civic duty. Got to get out there and vote. I agree
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly. So it's a big thing. So I just want out here promote that. But yeah, so big things. Obviously, LA Galaxy snapped a 6-game losing streak. It was big. Came from Kai Karenik. How do you say it? Is it Karenik?
Koreniuk, yeah,
Karenik.
Koreniuk,
Yeah.
yeah, or at least
Uh,
that's how I say it. I don't know. He hasn't corrected me yet, so we'll go with that.
yeah. So it was a big one, right? And it came from kind of like the unknown, right? Because you didn't know where it was going to come from. You know, they had a couple chances, so I thought that was a big win in itself. And then obviously there's a lot of things going that it was a lot of speculation that could have been Guillermo's potential last game.
Yeah,
And so I think to me what was the most interesting was the lineup that he put up and who he went with. I think
yeah,
kind of to me that just spoke volumes and who he really trusts and who he, if he was going to die by his swords, let's say that was his final game, he was essentially going to put out the lineup that he thought was the best. And that potentially, that I don't know, you may have more information than I know, that certain players that he decided to have on the team that were potentially maybe forced on him or not. I think we really kind of saw through the lines, and it kind of told us a lot, and it told me a lot of who he's really wanted, who he really trusts, and who he has a strong relationship. And I think that's what I took from it. And I don't know, obviously the big thing we'll get into a little bit more, but like he benched Chicharito, and I think that was kind of like the main sign on how he wants. But also I think at the same time he humbled Chicharito because of the way the effort and the way I seen him play when he came off the bench and everything. So just give me your thoughts on what you thought about the team's win, and the lineup he put out and everything like that.
yeah. I would think overall it's an uninspiring win. I mean, it definitely snaps a 6-game losing streak, which is what you want to do. And I think Sasha Kleshin was pretty, upfront afterwards. Is that the result itself matters more than how they played the game. And
Hmm.
and that's 100% in that case. And I have no issues with that. And I'm not going to take any issues or exceptions with the Galaxy somehow finding 3 points. But it wasn't a good game. In fact, it almost put me to sleep. I was at the stadium, and I was ready to fall asleep in the first half. In fact, I was ready to fall asleep for the first about 65, 70 minutes of
Hmm.
that game. There was nothing really that was going on. The lineup was interesting. Benching Chicharito, certainly not something that I was overly surprised with. I would think that any manager, given what they've seen from Javier Hernandez in recent games, would sit there and say, I'm not getting anything out of this guy. I'm not getting the effort that I want. I'm not getting the positioning that I want. And I think people are reading a little bit too much into it, a little bit. Not there's a whole bunch to read into it, but maybe just a little bit too much is, Guillermo was asked afterwards why he made that decision or why he made that change. And I think he was more pointed than he usually is, but he says, that was my decision. And playing the formation that I had with the single striker up there. And I'm going to paraphrase him because in English, Guillermo doesn't always do a good job of, I think, getting his point
And
across,
and I
right?
and I agree with you because I've heard him say certain things, and I listen back to the audio. I'm like, oh, I get what he's saying, but when you hear it the first time, you're like, He just said that, like you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
it
And
is hard. It's hard to understand him. And I just want to make that clear because it is hard to understand him when he says certain things, but when you play it back and you're like, oh, I get it. I get what he's trying to say.
with Guillermo, you can never, and this is in English. In Spanish, he's much better, and I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not going to pretend that I understand him in Spanish. But I've been told he's much, obviously, more eloquent and able to
Yep.
explain. It would be like me trying to explain something in Spanish. Actually, it would be worse than that because my Spanish is way worse than Guillermo's English. So, there's no nuance to it, and so whenever he speaks in English, you don't get the nuance. But basically, what he said was, I picked Yoni Gonzalez to play because he's the better choice for the formation that he's putting out. That's what he was trying to say is for the formation I had with the single striker up top, I chose Yoni Gonzalez. And here's the deal. If you and I are watching that, and if anybody has been watching the LA Galaxy this season, you have to sit there and say, well, duh. Javier Hernandez has been non-existent in a single forward formation.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get him the ball. They can't connect with him. And he's not making the runs. And whenever he does get the ball, it's on the outside. It's not on the inside where he can score goals. So there was a lot of things in that where you sat there and said, okay, yeah, that makes sense, Guillermo. Of course, we're gonna go ahead and you're gonna start Yoni Gonzalez. That's fine. And there's another part to that, and I don't want to cut you off, but there's another part to that, which is that Guillermo's at the point of pressure
Yeah.
where he can do whatever he wants because the
But
failure
shouldn't
of
it be that way though? Shouldn't it be that way if
it's
you're the
not.
head
No,
coach?
come on.
I mean,
It's not.
when it comes to putting out a lineup, though, when it comes to to coaching and stuff like that,
It is
I understand. You got players that are brought onto you, but if you're given the trust to like, hey, we want you to coach this team, and I think you got to give them that trust to like, you know, put out the lineup, put up the different things. Like I said, if this was potentially his final game, a final game, if they lost, I think he put out the lineup. This is who I want to roll with, and this is who I really trust. Because I think having too much control over a thing like that can make it tricky. You know what I'm saying? I understand he's a DP player. I understand he's a
right.
DP player, and there's a lot goes into that. But like, I think you kind of just saw, and we may see this moving forward. I don't know that be true, but we also saw Klinsmann. You know, he's been starting this last 2 games, and I think out of anything, that's one of the biggest positive signs. Whether Guillermo stays here or not, whatever happens, I think Galaxy might have found their keeper.
Right. Could have.
I think they might have. I think I could be, it could be far fetched, but I think that's one of the positive things. But I just think if you don't completely trust your head coach, and it's kind of dictated in a way who gets to play and what players get to come here. I think it's tricky because then you got to make it work. I understand certain things like the slot on or something like that, but like right now, I don't think it's work with Chicharito. Partly because I don't think he's put in the effort that you expected it out of him. So I think Guillermo's been thrown a curveball that he didn't expect because of the lack of effort that Chicharito has put out there, and I was on board to give him as much time and let him come in from him. I was on board on that, but then what I've seen from him and his body language, it's kind of hard for me to kind of stay with them when I'm reading certain things of his body language, and he hasn't impacted the game in a way that that I feel like that I feel like, okay, they won because of Chicharito, or like they got this pass because of Chicharito, because of that. Not necessarily scoring, but like if you impacted the game in other ways, defensive, or I don't think he's done that yet. And for being the star and being the quote unquote superstar of this team, and with all the expectations and with the money behind it, if you're a Galaxy fan, I clearly see why your frustration. I clearly see that you haven't gotten your money's worth, and I think the
Yeah.
fans have the right to be upset.
Yeah, I have no problems with that. Fans have every right to be upset about anything they want to be upset about. There's never, I have problems with people who gatekeep supporters, which is you have to support this way or you have to do this, or there's people out there saying, well, you need to cancel your season tickets, and that's the only way that you can support. That's all BS. And it always has been. You can do basically within certain bounds, and I'm talking about within the human decency, you can do whatever you want to protest the way that you want to protest. So them getting upset at Chicharito, I have no problems. Them getting upset at the LA Galaxy front office, I have no problems with. But Guillermo's playing with house money now, and you can see it's always so easy to see. You saw it with Siggy Schmidt too, which was Siggy Schmidt got fired and Dominic Kinnear came in, and Dom made all the moves that Siggy Schmidt could have never made because Siggy was trying to keep his job long term and playing the players that he knew he needed to play because he's the one who brought those players in and he's the one who's attached to those players. And even if players were forced upon him, he knew he needed to play those players. Dom comes in an interim and says, well, I don't have to play any of those guys. That's what Guillermo just did. There's no pressure on Guillermo. The pressure is already there. So there's no additional pressure for sitting Chicharito. It does nothing. What are the consequences if Guillermo gets it wrong? He loses his job. He's gonna lose his job anyway. All right.
You think so? You really think so? Even with this final year on the contract?
Unless Guillermo Barros suddenly learns tactics and how to make in-game adjustments, then yeah. I mean, there's almost zero way I can see him lasting. And one win over Vancouver, where Vancouver just ran out of gas, isn't going to save that.
Let me just hit on that. I don't think he lacks tactics because of where he's coaching, his pedigree of coming from Boca Juniors. I think where he does lack is trusting the players, trusting the younger guys,
He trusts younger guys. He trusts younger guys too much. He plays Efrain Alvarez, who shouldn't be on the field.
No, I'm talking about like Cameron Dunbar. Other guys, you know what I'm saying? Like the depth of it, like trusting, like Kai Karana, he said he went up to Guillermo about a week ago. And I don't think if Kai didn't do that, I don't think Kai would have played, and I think it's
but doesn't that show character?
Maybe it's a language barrier or something,
But doesn't that show character from Kai Karaniuk to say, hey, I want to get in, coach, how do I let me play? So
that's a player you want.
But as a coach, that's good. You've now exposed that guy, right? You've brought it out of him. You've got things. Some people on this team, I think they're entitled to a starting position, and they're not.
I agree with you. I agree with you on
that. But I mean, Guillermo had the knock at Boca Juniors that he wasn't a tactician, and you can see it. Go back to the San Jose game; they lose 4-0. They start in a 4-4-2. It lasted 25 minutes. Why? Because there was a giant empty bucket in the middle, and Perry Kitchen and Sasha Kleshin are. And I like both of them, and they're good. And the thing with the 4-3-3 against Vancouver is they brought Sebastian Lletget in to help those two guys. But those two guys couldn't handle the center of the field. And then Guillermo tells his wings apparently to never play defense because nobody plays defense on the wings. Christian Pavone will track back once or twice.
I don't think he tells them that.
Well, of course not. I don't think he tells them that. But at the same time, they don't do it, and he doesn't correct it. You have guys who just, I mean, there's one way you can stop the LA Galaxy from bleeding goals, which is to tell the outside backs to stop going forward. Everybody knows this. We all watch it, right? Hey, chill out on the going forward. Let's take our time. Let's be patient on this and pick a time to go forward. And guess what? Both of you can't go forward at the same time. You have two wingers going forward and two outside backs going forward. You have nobody in the middle who's quick enough to break up a counterattack, and you leave two defenders in the center of the field that are going to get beat every time. You can't put Steres and Depew or Steres and People Gonzalez on an island and expect them to survive. It doesn't happen, and you're getting outnumbered and out counterattacked. So that's what happens to the LA Galaxy. It's happened over and over and over again throughout the entire course of this season. Outside of the 4 games they won, games they won, they were tactically smarter. So if I can see that, and I'm a moron, right, then Guillermo Barros should be able to see that. And the knock on him at Boca was that he's not a tactician, right? Because if he was a tactician, he would understand that he is allowing his team to constantly get counterattacked to death. And that's all that happens. It's simple. Just watch the games.
Yeah,
there's no center of the field for the Galaxy.
I also think it has to go on the players, and at least to have some pride within yourself, because I think sometimes I agree with you on certain things, but my counter to that, which is how it started, is I think it's also on the players. It's on the coach, but I feel like it's also on the players, because we've seen this LA Galaxy. I think it was San Jose, like the last 20 minutes or 80 minutes, I don't want to say they gave up, but they didn't give any effort,
Right.
And it's just like, where's your pride? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's your pride?
Here's my counter to that. And I think this is a good point. And I even asked Guillermo after that game whether or not he saw any give up in his team. And he said, no, it was frustration. And I don't know if I believe it, but no, the team is frustrated for sure. They're frustrated because it's a bunch of individuals running around. People have called this team lazy, that they don't have heart. And I rarely like to sort of pull out the heart game or you have to play for the badge game, because these are professional athletes. They know how to play. They know how to do it. This LA Galaxy team, and Kobe Jones and Joe Tutino saw on the broadcast, they said, Kobe says, this team just looks tired, right? And Joe Tutino basically answered back. He goes, yeah, we've seen that a lot this year, that this team looks tired. So they're 100% correct. The team is tired, but why are they tired? It's a bunch of individuals out there trying to do either too much or not having a clear understanding of a plan. And they're running around like somebody's trying to herd cats. You can't get them in the right direction. Everybody has their own idea of what to do. Everybody's pressing. Sasha Kleshman talked about it as well. He says sometimes guys try to do too much whenever it's not working. Again, that goes back to tactics and an understanding in the game plan. So this team is exhausted every single game that they play. Absolutely just bone dead exhausted, right? And so you have to sit there and say it's not from lack of trying. In some ways, it might even be trying too hard, but it's about being able to corral the individual talents that the LA Galaxy have and turn them into a team. What is the style? What style has Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, put onto this team? There is no style. We can't define it. We can tell you where their failures are, but we can't tell you where their successes are. It's to get the ball to Christian Pavone. Is that a success? Because it was get the ball to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Was that a success? I mean,
scoring goals, it was, but it not with this lineup and not with the roster that they currently have, and that doesn't work. But I think also I'm with you on that, but I also the players got to look themselves in the mirror, man. Like when Chicharito's lacking effort, when Pavone is trying to do too much, instead of passing it. I think let me ask you this: who is the leader on this team? Like who's the leader?
Yeah, it's Sasha Kleshman, and which is a problem because he hasn't been on the field outside of like 2 or 3 games.
Wouldn't you expect that one of your DPs should be the leader?
Should be,
You're one of your DPs, whether it's Jonah, Pavone, Chicharito.
So Pavone, right? Yeah, you would expect. So Pavone would be the most likely. He's the only guy. He's the only designated player who's played every minute of every game. Chicharito they tried to sort of make him a leader, I think, at the beginning, but you can't have a leader who can't do basic things out on the field right now and who doesn't make an impact whenever he comes onto the field. I think the biggest plus out of the game against Vancouver is Chicharito had an impact off the bench. Now, it wasn't a good impact. It wasn't like it was the best thing in the world, but he had 2 scoring opportunities that he should have put in.
Yep.
And so when you look at that, that's a plus because the argument before the Vancouver game was they couldn't even get the ball to Chicharito in order for him to score. Gotcha. So you had those that were there. So you see that. So maybe Chicharito, it can't be Jonathan Dos Santos. He's been injured and he has been away on international duty and he's missed. He has not been the designated player.
But the reason why I asked this is because I feel like these players are they're for themselves. I don't really think this team is a team. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like right. What I give Galaxy, they won't throw each other under the bus as of now. They have not thrown.
Yeah, give it some time.
Yeah, they have not thrown each other under the bus as of right now. I'll give them that. But at the same time, when there's speculations, there's a thing that I tweeted that, and I think where I'm going with this, that I don't know this to be true, and you may have more information on me. But the reason why I asked you this is to lead you to this. If there's no clear leader on this team, and you don't really, and it's not from one of your 3 DPs, from what was from ESPN Deportes, they said that Chicharito only talks to one of the players, and this may be far-fetched, and that he thinks he's above everybody else. I'm just paraphrasing, right? He thinks he's above everybody else, and he only talks to apparently Jonah Dos Santos, right?
Right.
To me, I can see some of that being true because there's no leader in this team. There's no one that I don't think Chicharito and Pavone, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they have a good relationship. I don't think you can see that when sometimes Chicharito's run and you were like, why didn't Pavone pass on the ball? I just read those things and I don't think they have a good relationship. And I think Guillermo potentially thought that, like, hey, if I have, Pavone and Chicharito, they're going to want to build a relationship. But you have 2 players that, are kind of like, maybe they're not talking with each other. They see each other as a leader. And I think they're butting heads. And right now I think that has to do a lot with it because there is no real team within this team. I feel like it's every man for themselves. And it's like, well, it wasn't my fault. There's no real responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's
I see that. I see guys taking responsibility all the time.
As a team, yeah. Like as a collective team, they'll say the right things, but individually, I feel like, they're out for themselves.
Yeah,
I just really feel like to an extent, because I don't, like I asked you, I don't really know who the leader is, and I think you would expect your top three players, your three DPs to be one of the leaders.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but yeah, you would expect that one of those guys, you were hoping it would be Jonathan. Jonathan last year was every bit a designated player that he should be. This year, he has been absent most of the time. So I don't think you're getting any leadership from him. Uh, I'll tell you, I think it's totally blown out of proportion. I don't think that there's any sort of rift in there. I haven't heard any bad words about, like, whenever Giovanni Dos Santos was on the team, we used to hear a whole bunch of things about him, and you would hear about how he's always out partying and always doing stuff, and how he wasn't part of the team and the whole deal. And to a man, everybody I talked to said, man, Gio's great, we love him, he's just not very good at soccer. Right? Like, it was that simple. It was like, hey, it was great. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, whenever we heard about him, hey, we heard about how mean he was, and what a bully he was. Absolutely true, by the way. That's 100%. He was not a nice person. That doesn't mean that he was wrong in any of his criticisms
He
that he
just
made.
wanted to win. He wanted
to win, but he's also a bully. I mean, straight up, the dude's a bully, right?
Yeah.
Now Michael Jordan, maybe you could put on that same, Kobe Bryant. You watch those things. There's guys who are on those levels that sort of come off
But
as bullies.
I think with to that point, it's he's winning. He's with AC Milan, and they're winning. They're doing great
Right.
things, and then Galaxy fans are like, I don't know. I mean,
Well, no,
if you're a Galaxy player, would you not rather have Zlatan right now? You know what I'm saying?
I
Would you
don't
not?
know. I don't know if that was
Would you
a
not? From what you know, what you can get. He's a mean guy. He's a bully,
Right.
but he's gonna make it exciting. And I think the league. This is another thing, but I think the league did a bad job of not trying to keep him, or trying to, because that
I don't think he wanted to stay. I don't think he wanted to stay, and I don't think the Galaxy wanted him to stay. I mean, that's always been my take on it, that the Galaxy didn't want him to stay, and he didn't want to stay. Now, there's people who've told me, no, he absolutely wanted to stay. I don't know how much I believe that. Going back to Chicharito and going back to all this stuff, right? Giovanni Dos Santos was a great guy. Guess what people used to tell me about Zlatan all the time? Off the field, dude was great. All right? Dude was great. He was a great guy. Chicharito gets along in the locker room fine. I've talked to people. They're like, yeah, he's cool. Like, he's a cool guy inside the locker room. We like him, the whole deal. Nobody's going to comment right now on how poorly he's playing. So I understand that. I can sort of read between the lines. Everybody's seeing exactly what we're seeing as well. But in terms of, this larger than life attitude and stuff like that, I think most of it's drummed up. It's just, it's not fake news, because I refuse to use that term, but listen, there's drama everywhere around Chicharito, right? And the pressure that's on him right now, I think it's more than he ever thought there would be in Major League Soccer. And I think he hasn't lived up to even, a small little token of what the LA Galaxy expected. And if they were somehow to get rid of him tomorrow, I would say, great move. Good job. You got out of that. Congratulations. That was the smart thing to do, because they either don't have the personnel to do it, or they got somebody they didn't understand who they were getting. Putting them in a two-striker system is probably a smarter way to go. So do you have the personnel for that? We saw it. They tried.
But they also didn't think like he was not going to give no effort. Like the lack of effort, the lack of, to quote Kevin Baxter, he's been right now a early bust,
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, that is so hard to predict. I didn't expect that. I expected him to at least feel like, man, like he really is putting the effort in, right? I don't want to say he doesn't care, but I feel like,
right,
you read his body language, he's not putting the 100% effort that you see in Sua, you know what I'm saying, that you see Pavone puts in, you know what I'm saying? Like, you did see it this last game when he played the last
40 minutes
or whatever.
Yeah,
you saw him make those runs, but you haven't seen it today. And I think that's why I say, I think benching him really humbled him.
That's sort of the point, though. If you go and watch that game, and Yoni Gonzalez played in the striker position, and I thought he was largely a disappointment in that. I think he got 2 shots, and one of them wasn't even close. So you can't call any of that. He got 18 touches in 50 minutes. Yoni did, in a single striker formation that was really suited more for him. He's a big, strong guy, so putting his back to goal, he should have had a lot more touches than he did. He didn't get the touches. Chicharito came in, had 40 minutes to play, so 40 versus 50. Chicharito got 20 touches, and he had 4 shots on goal, or 4 shots. None of them actually made it on goal.
Which makes sense after he was humbled, after we was humbled. But at the same time, he's had 692 minutes and only 1 goal. That is a bigger picture, right?
I mean, it is. And listen, I'm not sitting here defending Chicharito. I just don't think that some of the characterizations of him not trying, I think he's out of shape, which you could certainly go down and put to effort. right?
That comes
And
down to him. That I think
yeah,
that comes to how much he really cares. How much he really cares about the
yeah,
season.
I agree with
And
that.
the reason why I bring this up, I just don't think that is fair to the LA Galaxy, and I don't think that's fair to the LA Galaxy fans, because if you're coming here with, like, I had Kevin on the podcast. He said, like, he might have had the mindset of him coming down to like a minor league, to use a baseball
Hmm.
term,
Right.
and you're asking for that much money, and you're getting, right? It was 7 million. He's making 7 million plus
He's making
bonuses.
5 million. Everybody likes to pretend that he's making so it's 5 million plus bonuses, right? And then it was almost a $10 million transfer fee. So
Yeah,
really,
nine
when you
nine
round
point
it up,
four.
it cost him $15 million this year. Probably a little less than that because he didn't get his full salary, is my guess, with COVID-19 and everything that happened with that. But yeah, 5 million is a lot of money. 5 million is more than enough money to be able to show up and perform and be in shape and do all those things. He's been a bust. I don't think it's an early bust. He's been a bust. You can't point to one real highlight for him. And he could have had two. I mean, we were talking about this on our podcast with Kevin on Monday night, and we were saying, imagine if we're sitting here talking about Chicharito, who scored 2 goals in the Vancouver game because he had a chance for two
Mm-hmm.
goals. It's a different story all of a sudden. It's like, hey, things really changed. Now, we saw an incremental small baby step from him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the benching had any effect on him whatsoever, to be
I
honest.
think so. I think it did.
Yeah,
I 100
we'll have to
percent
see,
it did, because
right? We'll have to see.
because if he gets benched again, or if he knows that he's coming up, I think it really humbled him, and it really kind of, like, if he was, if there's speculation that he was this big star, right? And the coach, like, yeah, the coach, but I also think it's like where that came from. It came from Spanish media outlet, and it makes me think it came from a Spanish speaking player, coach,
Hmm.
or whatever. It didn't
Right.
come. It didn't come. What I'm saying, it didn't come from a native English speaker. I know
Right.
where it
Or
came
or
from.
it got completely made up. That's also the
I I I
I
I
would
could
lean
I
towards
could
that more.
I could see that, but to go on TV and put your face out there for that reporter that did, I think there is some truth to that. I think it is, and I think, and I know Chicharito heard that, and I know he
The,
did, because of where it was coming from, and I think that was a shot, like, from wherever it came from. It was a shot directly at him, because they had enough. They
well,
had enough.
Guillermo clearly doesn't. I mean, I'm with you. I don't think Guillermo trusts him. It was funny because in the post game, Guillermo was talking about Kai Koreniuk, and we were asking him about him, and he was telling, oh, I'm really happy for Kai, and then Kai came and told us the story, the whole deal. But you asked Guillermo about Chicharito and his performance. He goes, well, I'm not going to talk about individuals right now. It's like you just got done talking about Kai Koreniuk
I think,
and
yeah,
Jonathan
because
Klinsmann.
he's had it, man. Like, you think about it. If you're in a situation, you think you have this player, like, yeah, you're gonna make it work, and then you see the effort, and you're the one that you have to face the media. You got to talk to the media. You're the one. You're always asked about him, and you know what I'm saying. And now let's get into the next topic, the front office. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like Kevin wrote, he is the scapegoat right now. I don't think this is Guillermo's 100%. I don't think this is Guillermo's. I do see that there's certain things he could do better, but I don't think it's 100% his fault. There's certain
No,
things that you'll look, but I think he's the one that has to face the media. He's the one that has to go up there and talk to us, right? Listen to us and get asked about Chicharito, get asked about this, and he hasn't thrown any of his players under the bus, and no other players have done that. So I applaud him for doing that, and I applaud the Galaxy players for doing that. But I
I
think
mean, he threw them all under the bus at the beginning of the season whenever he said that they quit against LAFC. I mean, he threw them down and then let the bus back over him. And then whenever that was done, he had the bus pull forward again. So it's
yeah,
not like he doesn't criticize and he doesn't do things.
but player, I mean, by calling out player
Right.
specific players, I think when you call out a player specific, it's different. It's a different type of thing. Like, when you call out the team, you're calling out everybody. But he hasn't specifically said, like, Chicharito, he's lacked this. He needs to step up. He needs to do a better job. He hasn't done that. You know what I'm saying? So I credit him for doing that, because I think he understands he really understands the situation is, and he's kept it cool. Like, I give him props to that.
I mean, I think he threw Chicharito under the bus whenever somebody asked him why he made the change, right? And he said, why did you bench him? And he says, because that's my decision.
No, I
And
don't
my
think that.
decision
I
is
don't think that. I don't think that is. I think if he would have said no because he lacks effort, he hasn't. I think that's on him. I think he was gonna get asked that no matter what. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that's. I think that's fair for him to say. I don't feel like he's thrown Chicharito on the bus. I think the way he responded, it was fair. Like, like he said, he went with the safe answer, in my opinion. This is the
Which was the
formation.
formation. Yeah, which
Yeah,
was
it's the
talking
formation.
kind of about the formation.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what he went with the safe answer. So I don't think he threw him on the bus.
But I mean, you go to the front office. I think it's an important thing. You say you don't blame Guillermo 100%, and I agree. I mean, if we're looking at this year, I think that Guillermo probably gets about 60% of the blame, and Dennis DeClosa probably gets 35% of the blame, and then there's 5% whoever allowed this to happen. And it's funny because if you go through and say, okay, well, who deserves to keep their jobs and who doesn't deserve to keep their jobs? I mean, that's where this comes down to. And
Is that what I'm not thinking that way, but is that how you feel though? Is
yeah,
that how you feel like?
yeah. I mean, there's people who this season is there's people who this season they can find fault with, right? So if you
Yeah.
look at Dennis DeClose and Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, I think that they're at fault for this season. They constructed this team. They put this team together. Whether Chicharito was their call or not, however that happens, they constructed this team. COVID-19 certainly takes a part of that. We know, and Kevin reported on this and talked about on our podcast. We know the LA Galaxy are having trouble getting players in. We know that a lot of MLS teams are having trouble getting players in during COVID-19. So even the reinforcements that they'd like to bring in, they can't bring in right now. So that's another part of this that obviously is clear in there. But there's a larger overall reaching picture here, and we have to pay attention to that as well, which is Bruce Arena left in 2016. The LA Galaxy hired Kurt Anolfo. Anolfo, wasn't given any support, and they bounced him and blamed him for a lot of things that were clearly a front office and a general manager argument. Chris Klein and Pete Byanis deserved to take the blame for that. Instead, it was Kurt Anolfo who took the blame for that. So you saw that. Then they brought in Siggy Schmidt. The rumors always were that Siggy was angling for the job before Kurt Anolfo even got it. So Siggy Schmidt wanted to be back in there. They gave Siggy some more control, but still they stifled him and didn't really give him the things that he wanted to do. And so they ended up firing him. They bring in Dom as the interim. Now, again, Dom has the handcuffs taken off because he's short-term anyway, so he does whatever he wants. And the LA Galaxy actually played pretty well for a little bit. That goes away. Guillermo Barros-Schelotto comes in. Schelotto and Dennis DeClosa have brought this team to the point it is now in terms of the players. Leave Chicharito out of it for a second, but they went out and got Christian Pavone, which was great. But you look at guys like People Gonzalez that they miss on. You look at guys like even Insua is probably hit and miss. You look at Jorgen Sheldon.
I think Insua's been solid. Like
He
puts in the effort though. He puts in the effort.
He puts in the effort, but I mean, again, it's the argument for this whole Galaxy team. What is that effort getting? Emiliano Insua. It's getting him up the wing on the left-hand side, and he's crossing the ball. The Galaxy are crossing the ball. They're averaging more crosses this year than they did last year when we were all saying, dude, can you not cross the ball to Zlatan every single time? I mean, we look at those things and we say, okay, there hasn't been an improvement across that.
Yeah.
Right.
Continue with your point. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. But like you have all these different guys that they've brought in over the past couple of seasons. And for the most part, this is Dennis DeClosa and Guillermo Barros-Schelotto's teams. There's a couple guys on there that aren't. Sasha Kleshin is their guy. Julian Araujo is their guy. Hey, great. They brought up Julian Araujo, and he's been great. And if he's smart, he gets to Europe this winter as fast as he freaking can because he does not want to be stuck on this LA Galaxy team. So they've done some things right. But if you look at how this season particularly has gone, this roster is not the most talented roster in the league. It's not. We know that.
I would argue you have the talent. You have the talent. And
so
you can't tell me Pavone, Jonah Dos Santos, Jonah Dos Santos plays for the Mexican national team.
Yeah. Does he play for the LA Galaxy? When has he been on the field this
year? And that is on Jonathan Dos Santos. But
it is, and his international stuff and stuff like that. But no, I mean, you could listen. I talked to a bunch of people, and I'm not smart enough to know all this stuff. But talking to people who have played this game before and certainly are much smarter than me at this, they say, listen, the roster's not great. It's got a lot of holes in it. Look at the center of the midfield. Who's the leader in the center of midfield? Is it Jonathan Dos Santos? Is it Sasha Kleshin? Is it Perry Kitchen? Is it Leggett? I mean,
my point to that is like you can't really blame Guillermo for that. You know what I'm saying?
Like, of course you can. Is he putting them in a position to succeed?
You can't.
I would argue he's playing Sebastian Leggett out of position.
I just feel like you can say that, but at the same time, like if you're given this roster and he looks at the roster and then you have players in and out, I agree. This
isn't a new thing though, Gio. This isn't a new thing for Guillermo. Okay, this is not a new thing. This is not there was a reason that he left Boca Juniors. All right. He had a supremely talented group of players at Boca Juniors, and he didn't have to do much with them.
1,000 times more than it is here.
Yeah, absolutely. And he didn't have to do as much with them, right? Those guys understood really where they were. And he really, I mean, again, the knock is that he's not a very good tactical coach, right? And so eventually that kind of got him bit, in the Argentine league. And that's why he probably had to leave. It's just he didn't have the that next level to sort of get things done. And in Argentina, they have some really talented teams, but let's face it, Boca Juniors and River are the two
The
most
cream of the
talented
crop,
teams.
yeah.
Yeah. And so really even a poor Boca Juniors team is going to finish second or third, right? A good Boca Juniors team beats River and, goes on and does all these things. Guillermo comes to MLS where he has to do more with less. And that's what MLS is. You're going to get three players and you better hit on them. The Galaxy haven't. That's with your designated players. And then you
And I
need the
feel
role
like those
players.
three players are so crucial. And I think for them missing on Chicharito has been such a curveball on the team, on the players. Because like you said, those three players are so crucial. And when one player lacks the effort, I think it really, like, I agree with you. He does lack some tactics. But I think the bigger picture that I want to get to is what Kevin said in his article is, like you mentioned, these last 4 years, it just can't fall in the coaching. Like, outside the tactics, you got to look at Chris Klein and Dan Beckerman, right?
The
And
buck
we,
has to stop somewhere. That's the
exactly, and
argument,
and you got to get to the top. You know what I'm
right?
saying? And to me, if you have fans, our Galaxy knows the history. You have fans that know the history, and they know that this has been like this for a long time. And
Yes.
and then you got to look at the top. I do think it's at the top. I do think, because you had a team, like, just to expand more, you let another team come in within your city and do a better marketing job and a better experiential job. When you essentially had control of LA,
Mm-hmm.
you had control of LA. LA was yours,
That
and
was the
you let the
2017 season. The
and you
2017 season was the last chance the LA Galaxy had to be, the rulers and the roost. And what did they do? They won the wooden spoon. They had the worst season out of anybody. And they did it, I think, out of arrogance, the ability to think that we could do it better than Bruce did it. Right. There was arrogance that
Mhm.
Bruce Arena, who I think the longest losing streak in Bruce Arena's tenure at the LA Galaxy was 3 games. Like once. He
Yeah,
lost 3 games in a row once.
that's amazing.
Yeah, the LA Galaxy have lost, six in a row, and I think six in a row in the previous year in 2017 certainly was there. But anyway, they've had these long streaks of losing, and you go through there and you look at it. But yeah, I mean, as much as you can put the blame for this year on Guillermo and Dennis, because they're the ones who have to put the team together, right?
I agree.
And
I,
and
I,
you can
I agree.
and,
That's fair.
and then you also have to put the blame on the large overreaching sort of angles on things to Chris Klein and Dan Beckerman. I mean, here's the thing about Dan Beckerman is that you sort of have to sit there and say, okay, how much influence does he have on the day-to-day LA Galaxy, operations? And the answer is probably very little. I doubt, outside of seeing him on Sunday night and at the Vancouver game, I haven't seen him at any games in a while.
Yeah.
So he doesn't show up very often. But when you look at Dan Beckerman, what he's done under his tenure as president of AEG, right, is he's in charge of the Galaxy, he's in charge of the Kings, right, and he's in charge of this AEG empire as well. Well, the Kings suck in hockey, right? They have, and they've gone through and redone some things. I think they'll be okay because just in the system that sort of has, they've gotten some young talent, and maybe they get younger and they get better. That's fine. But in Major League Soccer, the Galaxy have sucked during his tenure as well. So where is the accountability for somebody like that? And then you look at Chris Klein. Chris Klein has largely divorced himself of soccer decisions, right? Of on the field soccer decisions.
But is that what that's? I don't think that's what a great general manager necessarily does. You know what I'm
But he's
saying?
not a GM. He's a president.
Or president. But it's excuse me. Yeah, if you're president, but if you're Chris Klein, right?
Right.
You got to do better. And you let since 2017, you let LAFC come in here and steal your territory. They
Yeah.
they took they took your territory. And I think if you don't see the trend and you didn't adapt, right? You didn't adapt quick enough. And you got the money. AEG got money. They got money. So you
Yeah,
can't tell me.
we'll see how healthy they are coming out of
I
this
mean, I'm
this
talking, I'm talking, I'm,
COVID-19.
ta- I'm
But yeah,
talking pre-COVID.
yeah,
I'm talking pre-COVID. You have money, right? You have money. You had the opportunity to change things up, switch up the stadium, whatever, and market a lot better, like LAFC. You let another team come in here, and you're having these down years, and you didn't do. You stayed the same. You stay the same, and that's what's happening. They stayed the same, and they didn't do anything. They didn't invest in having a more of a community within the fans. One of the great opportunities that I get to see with both teams, I get to see what this LAFC does, and I get to see what LA Galaxy does. What I think they do is do a great job in community, and LA Galaxy can do the same thing, but they just haven't done it. They just haven't invested the money to assign someone to get more community things. I'm not saying that's going to change the outcome of the game. That has no influence on that. That's obviously on the tactics and everything. But the bigger picture is they now this year they're going to do the standing room and everything, which I thought was great. But I also thought they were like a year behind or to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, Galaxy fans have been asking for that since before Orlando came into the thing. So I mean, again, you're right in that sense. Is the Galaxy stopped or didn't want to adapt and didn't want to do things, and now they look reactionary. And I think that goes. Listen, the bottom line and the way to save all this is for the LA Galaxy to be a dominant team again. LAFC has problems now because
do
they
you
don't
think
have.
that happens with the current front office though?
No, and I don't think it happens with the current coach either. I mean, I think I think this experiment
Yeah,
is
but
over.
I think the coach is micro, but I think the front office is macro. You know what I'm saying? It's macro because
You
they're
have to blame you again. If you look at the blame pies, at least in my opinion, is you have to blame Dennis and Guillermo for this season. You want to talk about the overall reaching thing, then you have to look at Chris Klein and Dan Beckerman. If
Mhm.
I'm anybody in AEG, if I'm Uncle Phil, and I want to come and look at what's going on in this team, then Dan Beckerman probably doesn't have a job. That Chris Klein probably doesn't have a job, and Guillermo Barros probably doesn't have a job. I think those are the three people who go. And everybody's like, well, how come Dennis DeClosa gets, the gifted spot there? Is you need somebody, and I think Dennis is smart enough.
I agree.
Um, I think Dennis has a plan in place,
I
at least
agree.
to understand that. I think that if he brings in another coach, one who can work with the talent that they have, because I think they have an okay team, but they have a lot of things to sort of adjust and do. You're probably going to lose Christian Pavone. You're probably going to lose, a guy like Julian Araujo here pretty soon. I don't think he's going to stay very long. Again, I would go this winter if I'm him. And if I could, I would be gone. So you're going to have to lose some of these guys. And how do you make Chicharito work? He has 2 more years left on his contract. So are you going to try to get rid of him? You can try. I think that's a great idea. How much money you're going to have to eat in order to do that? You're probably eating the $10 million transfer fee that you paid.
Yep.
And you're probably eating some of his salary. So he still has basically, if you look at it, another $10 million in salary plus bonuses. Again, I don't think he's ever getting those bonuses, so I wouldn't worry about it. They're performance based. So he's not getting any bonuses there. I think there's probably also jersey sales and some other things. So I'm sure he can get some more money in some of these ways. But what are you going to do with that? Because he's expensive. And he's holding a designated player spot. And right now, Jonathan Dos Santos is holding a designated player spot. He's too expensive to not be playing. So you have huge issues that are going to sweep through this team in the offseason and add to it the uneasiness of Major League Soccer to even sort of commit to having a league to play in February again next year. That could get delayed. They want people back in the stands, and my guess is they'll wait till June to start the season unless they can get people back in the stands.
Yeah, and I think that's great if they have to wait till June to get people back in the stands. It makes all the sense. I'm with you on that. I don't think they start the season without fans, but I truly think however this plays out or whatever happens when Guillermo goes or whatever, if that's the case or he turns things around, I just truly think that the Galaxy fans know the history. The Galaxy fans, they've been supporters since 1996. They know what it's like to winning. Let me put it just like the Lakers. You knew when the Lakers weren't doing great and who was managing and running it, Genie's brother and stuff like that. And then things change. I think there needs to be a drastic change because if you say from 2016, and this is just me naively, let me say covering the team for the last 3 years, but I've been around, I've seen it, and I've seen them when they've won and stuff like that. But being able to cover both teams, I see what's working, I see what's not working, and I think at what point are you going to turn this thing around and when it's not just the coach, you know what I'm saying, when the fans know it starts at the top and
it's a structural issue too. I mean, it goes down through all the departments throughout the front office as well. I mean, if you're going to make a change that includes Chris Klein going, if you're going to make a change that includes Dan Beckerman going, then that funnels down to every department, including the coaches, including the PR staff, including the ticket sales, all that stuff gets changed. So while it's nice to talk about change sometimes, and this is my only sort of caution against it. I'm with you. I think that there needs to be drastic, sweeping
Yeah,
change.
I don't know if both will go, Chris Klein or Dan Beckham. I think there's
I
just
don't
needs
know
to.
if either will go.
Yeah, I don't,
I
and
mean,
I agree with you. I don't think because they hold the keys to the castle, right? Essentially.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
and it looks like still with contracts and stuff like that, I think that Chris Klein still has maybe a year or a couple of years left
mhm.
on his 5-year extension that he got after the worst season in LA Galaxy history. So if that's the case, he still has Guillermo still has a year left on his contract. I would imagine that Dennis DeCloso still has a year left on his contract, right? So I mean, there's some real financial things that take a hit as well. The entire coaching staff probably has that 3-year deal, right? So if you're going to swipe the coaching staff and they're going to go away, because if Guillermo goes, everybody goes with
Yeah,
him, right?
of course. Yeah.
All of those contracts you're going to have to pay out. So there's a real financial hit in order to make this as well. But what is the alternative if the team continues to mire itself in? It's not even mediocrity, because mediocrity would put them in the center of the Western Conference right now. They're anchoring down the basement spot in the Western Conference, which is for this team. While I say they're not very talented, they're more talented than being the last place team in the Western Conference. So
Yeah.
there's clearly some structural issues here that need to be solved.
Yeah, and 100% that. I guess we'll revisit this. I'll have you on the pod. We'll revisit after the season and what happens there, because if major change or a commitment or something that I think it's just a disappointment of what their true history are, and I think they're relying too much on the brand, and it's sad because you're not producing what you see on the field and stuff like that, and it's sad for the fans. It's just sad because you're an LA team. You're since 1996, and you're not living up to all the expectations that everybody had, and there's a lot that we just got into. So now let's look forward. This weekend, I think it's a great thing for MLS. You got Galaxy and LAFC on prime time on a local channel, ABC, at 12:30 p.m. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this may be the first time ever in a
I
long
think they
time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's been a long time. They were on Fox. They were over the air Fox earlier this year. So there have been over the air games and that they've been able to get to. So no, it's big. You get built-in audiences for this already. Like, you can usually boost the attendance, and having this game in particular. I know it's on Sky Sports in Europe, right, and in England for sure. So I mean, there's a lot of exposure that comes with this game. I mean, yeah, it's great. I'm bored of it, to be honest with you. It's the fourth game that they played. It's
Yeah.
just like whenever they played San Jose 4 times.
Oh, that
Uh,
yeah.
Somebody just did an analysis and basically looked at it. And the LA Galaxy, I think, will only play 8 different teams this time, and other teams have played like 12 and 13 different teams throughout this season. It's like, this season, and the idea that it's any sort of balanced or reasonables has been out the window for a while. So why not play a fourth, El Trafico, to sort of do this? And, if the league is going to try to burn this out, which it almost feels like they're trying to do, then I guess they do get to do it. But
I
it's
don't
not,
mind it because these games are unpredictable though.
they are.
I feel like it's a 50-50 shot. Even the way Galaxy have been playing, I see LAFC, these games, man. 50. This can literally turn Galaxy season or the last 3 weeks. Turn it. Them. They're only 3 points away, right? They're only
Right.
3 points away, right? So they're not far. If they win, they can change it. If they lose, they're not going anywhere else. But I don't mind it necessarily because they're so unpredictable. You
Yeah, I
know.
mean, it's a good game for a neutral, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
sort of the whole thing. Is a neutral fan will probably watch this game, and being on ABC, you're going to get a lot of neutrals, so that's a good thing. Yeah, you can't predict these. I don't think that any Galaxy fan has gone into any of these El Traficos this year, or maybe last year, but this year, with any sort of confidence going into it. I'll say that LAFC is wildly unpredictable this year as well. You never sort of know what their defense is going to do, and I think the LA Galaxy are in a sort of similar vein. I know some people are of the opinion that the LA Galaxy gets so jacked up for this game that it's impossible to predict, and I think that's probably pretty fair. But if we're going to play all these games, right, you're going to get 4 games out of these, then you're probably going to see the best team of those 4 eventually get the majority of the wins. And if you go back to the MLS's back tournament with the 6-2 win for LAFC there, and then you have the LA Galaxy back-to-back shutouts of LAFC, it just, in my mind, one of these teams is going to be clearly better than the other one, and this is probably the game that happens.
Mhm.
This is going to be, I think, less or more predictable than than the previous 3 games. I just think they've seen each other too many times, and that you're sort of going to see what you get with that. They're not any fancy offenses or fancy defenses like San Jose has, for the most part. It very well could be a 4-3-3 versus a 4-3-3. And that makes for an interesting matchup. And I think they line up against each other pretty well, but tons of question marks from the LA Galaxy. Does Chicharito even play? By the way, hasn't played in an El Tráfico yet. That is correct. Yeah, hasn't played in El Tráfico yet. So is he even going to play? Is he going to be, yacked up for this one? Those are all unpredictable sort of things.
Yeah,
but
and I think that has to be the most disappointing thing, that he hasn't played in an El Tráfico, and that's the reason why you got him. That's the reason you wanted the Vela Chicharito matchup and stuff. And I had this piece of content I created even before I knew Chicharito or Vela, or even before the MLS back. They've been wanting to post out, and I think I'm just going to post it. I'm just going to post it because worked hard on it. If it doesn't happen,
it's never going to happen.
Yeah, and it's I'm just going to post it. I don't care if it has Chicharito and Vela, but I'm just going to post it because that's what it was supposed to be. And say Chicharito doesn't come back or whatever, right? That's what this was supposed to be. And we obviously, Vela also got injured and stuff like that, but we never saw that. And Chicharito was also injured for the first restart. So that's what I think has been the most disappointing, because if you had 4 and fans were able to go to 4, it would have been crazy.
Yeah, it would have been better with fans. With 4, it would have been. We got 3 last year, and we had 3 the year before. I mean, listen, 2 and 3 is the correct answer for this. Just like is in any soccer season.
I think 3, but hear me on this. 3, but the third one or one of them is in a neutral location, whether it's SoFi Stadium or Rose Bowl.
No, I actually think they should play all of them at SoFi, because you can sell the tickets for all 3 of those games, and you could, and so I think
whose home advantage is that though? You know what I'm saying?
Neither. I think it's pretty even. So I don't think so. Here's the deal. Everybody's like, well, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to leave your stadium and go to money? Money is the reason. Money is the reason that we play professional sports, because people want to make money and people do this. It's all about money. Yeah. And if you can go there and put, 65,000, 70,000 people, I think it's like 65,000.
No, isn't it higher than that? I think it's like
it could be. I want to say it's not as big as I thought. I always think it is. So I think it's around 65 or 70. Let's just say that. But if you could put 35,000 fans from each team, divide that place down the middle, it would look like something like Wembley does for the championship playoff game, right? Those types of things, those promotion games that you see. That's what it would look like. And I think that's where eventually this goes, because that's the spectacle that MLS wants. That's the spectacle the LA Galaxy and LAFC want. And they want all the money from all of those from the gate receipts. Yeah. You don't have to charge $100 for that ticket anymore. You get to charge $50 for that ticket, but you get, 3 times as many tickets. Yeah.
So you sell bigger suites and everything. I'm with you on that. But I think, to me, I don't know if this has any. I don't even think if their MLS or the teams may or may not care about this. But this is a minor thing. But wouldn't you, if you're a player, don't you want to see that on a grass field? Because I think SoFi is just turf.
It's turf. Yeah, no, it's. I think that this game gets big enough.
You throw some
grass down.
Yeah, I feel like that's a game that you put the money in, you put the grass in, because it's not the same. It's not the same.
It would be really crazy if these 2 teams met like the playoffs, and that's where they would play, right? I mean, like a playoff game with that. Listen, I know people are like, no, I wanted that at my stadium, and I get it. Sure, it's fun, and that's your home, and it makes sense, and you want that home field advantage, and you want all those things. Money usually wins out on these things. I think the spectacle of that in the United States and what that shows for soccer in Major League Soccer does more for the league image than maybe even David. I was going to say that maybe even David Beckham did, but it didn't. But like more than a lot of players, a lot of big name players. Just knowing that there's that atmosphere in a city like Atlanta, whenever they fill out, their stadium, it's like that happens in the United States. I could never predict that.
That's going to attract so many more stars and players and
sponsorships and money and all this stuff that helps the league get better and better. So I've always been and probably will always be the guy who's sitting. You play all these games at SoFi as soon as you can. For right now,
I'm with you. I was just thinking one because of home field advantage, but
play them all.
I'm with you on that. They play all 3 of them, and obviously we get to be there because having that many fans and you split them down the middle, it's going to be an exciting, and we know it's going to happen. We just don't know when.
Yeah, it might take a couple years, but we're not that far away from it.
Yeah,
The two stadiums for the games that they play are too small,
yeah, way
and
too
it
small right
doesn't
now.
matter whichever one it is. So yeah, I'm all for that. So this weekend should be, um, I guess you get to find out if the LA Galaxy really want to fight for anything. I don't love using that word, but they're going to have to be smart about it. And they have been smart whenever they played LAFC. Quite honestly, they've played some of their best games against
Yeah,
LAFC. So
they turned their whole so they restarted the season off on the right track, and I really do think this is more of a tricky game for LAFC, because they're also they've been playing great without their DPS, and they've had some young talent, but at the same time they're getting all four, they're missing four starters. They're getting the four starters back. I think just getting back in the groove. Uh, I think for the other Galaxy, I'm assuming you get Jonah Dos Santos back for this game and Ralph.
supposed to be. I mean, that's the
Supposed to.
idea.
So
Yeah,
it's the same thing for both teams. So it's the same thing for both teams. And I think this is more of a tricky game for LAFC because uh the Galaxy are the ones that I feel like have a little bit more to lose out on, because I think if they don't lose, if they don't win, I don't think they're making the playoffs. But I think if they win this game, it starts to look exciting. It starts to look like, and on top of that, say you get bragging rights, because this is what fans care about. And I know you and I, we see the bigger picture, but saying that you beat LAFC three times in a year and twice in their home, whether or not you made the playoffs or not,
right.
that goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean
That
it's a consolation prize. It's a nice consolation prize,
exactly.
that type of thing. Yeah, I mean all for that. I always look at the bigger picture in terms of what does this do for the general, the health of the LA Galaxy. Um, and I think there's a lot to sort of be said that winning against LAFC this year might not help the LA Galaxy and what they really need to have accomplished. I think it masks things, just like Zlatan came in and was a big band-aid for a lot of things that were wrong with this team. Because let's face it, the same things that are wrong this year were wrong last year. It's just Zlatan was better at hiding those
Mm.
things from what you're
Well,
watching.
I think that's what you see with greatness, though. That's what you see with
He's
greatness.
great. No, I
Just
think
the same
people.
thing. Just the same thing what you see with LeBron. Like, they didn't have that many weapons, and he was able to carry this team. I think I just want to add to that. I think what the MLS, maybe you follow me on this or not. A player like Zlatan, you don't need to necessarily market him, and he has his own character, right? And I feel like in
Mm,
sports, I think what the MLS is really missing is characters. And what I mean by that, you have this bad guy, good guy, and more
mhm.
of those rivalries. And I don't know if because some of the players, some of the bigger names are Spanish speaking, um, or I think MLS should. This is an idea. Should create those characters. Create more like, what I'm saying, like Slatan. You didn't really need to do that. He
Yeah,
was
I
that.
mean, everybody made him the villain, though, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
that's what you're
And
always looking
but it
for
was
is
easy.
is
That's what I'm saying, though. It was easy to do, because and he knew how
yeah,
to talk to the media. He knew he was just a star in every level. He knew that him talking to me, whether they win or loss, it was good for his brand. I just think if the MLS was able to build, not saying a Slatan, because that he's a unicorn, but I feel like if you need to start building some of those players up like that, those
yeah. But
rivalry.
here's the problem, right? And I agree with you mostly because on the press side, I get sick and tired of hearing the same answers all the time.
Yes,
But
yes.
whenever you have somebody like Zlatan, right? Or you have anybody who speaks out and tries to be a little bit of character, they get just lambasted by the press. People are going after him,
But he
fans are
doesn't.
going after him.
But he doesn't care, though. Like
He doesn't
Zlatan,
care.
understand, knows how to work the media, though.
But
I mean,
you're asking to create these. You're asking for players that are in MLS to be these guys, right? To be these outspoken, to be the villains, to
no, no,
be
no, no.
have
I'm
be
not.
the
I'm not. I'm not. I'm
characters.
not. I'm not. I'm not saying outspoken. I'm not saying. I'm not. Don't. I'm not. I'm not saying. I'm not saying be a Zlatan. I'm saying, like, you got to create some type of, like, for example, we weren't able to create anything between Chicharito and Vela,
Right.
because that, what I'm saying. You need to at least have something to create. You know what I'm saying? At least
Yeah,
have. Now, I'm
but
not saying.
we've
I'm not
seen
saying
that.
you need to tell this player to be outspoken. That's.
Right.
I'm not saying. I'm not saying that.
But I'm just we've seen that though, and if everybody remembers, it was the famous Frank Lampard versus Steven Gerrard game, of
Mm-hmm.
which neither of them played, And so, like, you've seen the MLS try and do this stuff, right? It was New York City versus LA Galaxy, and everybody's like, oh, it's Gerard versus Lampard, and neither of them played. And that was the story with that stuff. I don't have no problems with that. That's all marketing,
Mm,
in terms of how you do it. And listen, I mean, the LA Galaxy went, all in on marketing for Chicharito in terms of all the different things that they did. Seems like wasted money now, right? But if he was, 75% of what we expected him to be, then that marketing's not wasted and it was smart,
yeah.
right? So,
And
I mean,
I don't think that's Galaxy's fault. I really do think that's 100% Chicharito. Like, that's just him because I've seen him play, man. I've seen him play for so long, and being able to cover him, eh, it's just still so disappointing because I feel like, oh man, I just feel like needs to do better, man. Like he's really letting so many people down, and if this is the way he's gonna go out, is just I just don't. For me, as someone who's watched him for so long, it's just not a good look.
what if
I
it's
just
not him? What if it's not him? What if it's the fact that he's done? This is
then
it. He's done.
don't take this type of money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't do
But
that.
wait, come on. Come on. I'm
So,
gonna
no,
come
no,
up
no,
to
no,
you,
no, 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 no,
Gio.
no.
I'm gonna come up to
Don't take this type of money and give that. You know what I'm saying?
but again, I mean, the argument here is that in a lot of ways I'm looking at it, I'm seeing him be done. I'm seeing him not be able to do
Oh,
what he said he was supposed to, what
yeah,
we thought he was
I'm
able to
seeing,
do.
yeah, I'm seeing, but like the way he came braggadocious and said like, oh, I'm a Mexican legend coming back here, like some of those words that he was saying, like he was hyping up the train himself. You know what I'm saying?
Did he actually say that? I don't remember him
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
anything like that. I'm a
I'll show
Mexican
you.
legend.
Let me. I'll show you the video.
Right.
I want to get you the exact words. I can actually pull it up right here. Because
No, we're good. We're good. But no, just all the stuff that I've talked with him about, he seems like a humble dude. Everybody's talking about how he's this diva, and I don't see it. And maybe it's because the LA Galaxy have done a really good job of hiding him from us because certainly he doesn't talk after games.
oh man, that's a
Um,
whole another thing. That's a whole. But
and listen, I think it's probably wise. There's nothing good that can
I mean,
come out of it, right?
at this point, you're gonna piss off people even more if you bring them out to talk.
So I mean,
I feel like if you had Chicharito a couple weeks ago, like when Kevin had mentioned that, and I think that's another thing on the league and on these teams, right? I think you have to let these players talk. Maybe right now it's not the best time to do it, but I
it
think
is the best time. It's always don't fall into that because Kevin and I argue about this all the time. The guys who do you have respect for on the team? Do you have respect for the guys who come out and talk after the LA Galaxy lost 4-0?
100%,
Yeah, and those are the guys you have respect for. And where's everybody else?
100%.
And so yeah, if I thought he was going to be a stand up guy and he wanted to talk and he wanted to do things, I mean, the problem is that it's hard to sort of say, oh well, we need to talk to the substitute who came in the 40th minute and then missed two chances. I mean,
No,
it's sort of like
there's been other opportunities that he could have talked,
absolutely,
and they, like you said,
absolutely.
they've hit him, and it's I don't think that's a like I said, if LeBron James he talks after if they get spanked, if they lose, if they win, and I think that's where
Zlatan
MLS Zlatan
Zlatan talked.
because he knew branding. That's what I'm saying. He knew branding. He knew the bigger picture, and he knew like yeah, I'll talk. He does, and he
We
knew how,
we
he
used to
knew
have we used to talk to Robbie Keane all the time, right? I mean, let's go back, a little bit from my days covering the team since 2011, 2009 is when we started the podcast, but really, me in the locker room 2011, 2012. LA Galaxy would lose. Robbie Keane would be the first one up there talking every single time. He knew he had the captain's armband. He was going to talk. Landon Donovan, they lost. Landon Donovan would be up there talking, no problems. The LA Galaxy lost. Todd Donovan would be up there talking, no problems. They lost. AJ De La Garza would be up talking, no problems. After all this stuff, so I mean, it says a lot about a player and a character and just who they are. Whenever the
100%.
team's this bad about guys who come out and talk, and so right now, I have the utmost respect for guys like Dan Steres and for Sasha Question.
Yeah.
And those guys will come out and talk anytime, anywhere.
Mhm.
And even if it was their fault and they gave up, 7 goals, they would be the ones out there talking. And you don't see it on the other Galaxy. It goes back to your leadership. Who's the
That's what I'm
leader?
saying.
Who's going to come
That's
out
why I asked you the
and lead?
first question. You don't the guy you're paying the most money, he's not even willing to come out and talk to
I
the
don't need
media.
him to be the leader, though. Like Chicharito doesn't need to be the leader. In fact, I would prefer him not to be the leader. He hasn't been part of this club for very long. So
Yeah,
don't be the leader.
the way they made him up to be like he was going to be the leader and everything like that. But when you don't let him talk, I'm going to change my view on this. He should be talking every single time. He should, because of that, you don't get away from that in the NBA. You don't get away from that in the MLB. You
It
know, if
would be different if we were in the locker room.
a
And
hundred
that's
percent.
probably the big change, because we would sit there and say we want to talk to Chicharito, and then they would be like, no, he's not going to talk, and then
Yeah,
we would
but
be able to come out here and
but
say,
but don't you fall into that trap now, because every
which
other
is
team is doing it. Every other major sports team is doing it, and you're seeing the real people talk to me or whether. I'm with you. I think they are hiding him, and
they're
it's just
hiding a lot of people though. That's sort of my point. Is I don't think the LA Galaxy are doing a great job of always making a wide and diverse section of the team available for us. And maybe that's by design. Maybe it's just harder and all these things. I'm not going to throw them under the bus for a lot of this, because it's different, right? And when we're in the locker room, we can request anybody we want. It's
mhm.
easy. Doing these Zoom calls afterwards is a lot harder to get somebody who you want to talk, especially if it's like, my whole thing would be, hey, everybody wants to talk to Zlatan. Great. While you're all talking to Zlatan, I'm going to be over here talking to, Nick DePew, because that's the better story, in my opinion, than talking to Zlatan again. I mean, those are sort of the choices that you can make as a reporter, to go off and develop relationships. But not only that, but to get different sound and different pieces and different things. And with where we're at right now, it's not conducive to that. And
Yeah,
that's probably the biggest thing. We don't get a feeling for the team when we're not in the locker room,
yeah.
when we're not doing that. So a lot of this is conjecture, but a lot of it is based off of the players that I've talked to, and understand sort of what's going on in the locker room. So, it's back and forth, and we try to do the best that we can. But yeah, I mean, I think that Jonathan Dos Santos should speak more. He hasn't been playing because he's been international duty, he's been injured, a whole bunch of other stuff. Jonathan Dos Santos is supposed to be the captain of this team. He should be talking more. Dan Steres talks because he has the armband all the time. If Chicharito got the armband right now, I would expect him to talk after the game. Absolutely 100%. He better be there. But again, a sub who comes on and plays 40 minutes and misses two sitters isn't exactly the guy who probably I'm like, oh, I really need to talk to him. I need to talk to Kai
Yeah, I,
Carreño.
I don't think I don't think last game, but I think, excuse me,
San
games
Jose.
prior to
What what what
no
why
game
doesn't he
that.
talk in the San Jose game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You gotta reach out to your people out there, Josh, because I just don't. I think the bigger picture. I just think the bigger picture, and LAFC does the same thing. I think as a league, it as a league, and you're trying to grow it to be a major. You're not covering other teams, covering. Like I said, I'm a humbly brag here. I've been to the World Series. I've been to some of the biggest games. And it's just like seeing how they do it. If you want to be there's just things that you have to do. And just
Yeah.
making the players talk after wins or losses. And I think it just really speaks. I think we will get there, but we're not there. We're just
Well,
we're
well
just not
here's
there.
here's the rub on that, is that if you go anywhere else in the world, for the most part, the players don't talk. Um, it just, especially in Europe, players don't talk after games. The only way
Yeah,
that
but
you ever
we're
see a
not in
player,
Europe though, Josh. We're in America. We're,
I
we're every
yeah, but
how do you expect to get these guys on ESPN on a
where
daily? You know what I'm
yeah, but
saying?
where are some of these guys coming from? That's the other part about this. Whenever Robbie Keane and David Beckham came over, I remember that they were always talking about that they were not used to having to talk this much to the press, right? And David Beckham got asked questions every time after every game, right? And obviously David had to speak almost every game. It was David Beckham was going to be there. Same thing with Robbie Keane. It was an adjustment. Steven Gerrard hated it whenever he came over, right? And he was just like, why don't we have to talk so much and do this stuff? So from the mindsets of players outside of the United States, it's a difficult thing for them to sort of get used to. Now, your argument
All
is
you can say,
100%
bro,
correct.
all you can say to that is no comment. Hey, Josh, what do you think about today's game? Or do you think you doing? Did you play a good game? No comment.
The
You know what I'm
the
saying?
no com yeah, but
You know
the
what
no
I'm saying?
comment.
But there should be someone on the team to know how to coach these guys. But I don't feel like anybody is asking that tough of a question or disrespectful. They'd be like, you know what I'm saying? I just don't.
The whole problem again, the your argument was correct, which was that this isn't Europe and it's not overseas. It's the United States. In the United States, we expect our locker rooms to be open and our stars to talk, and that needs to happen. You can not do it, and when you do it, you end up hurting your brand more than anything. I think both of the
Yes.
LA teams are guilty of that.
Hmm.
Whenever it comes to having their star players talk and be available to the media and be able to answer tough questions. The U.S. press, we're soft, and I'll say it. I'm part of it. We're soft whenever it comes to questions. I will ask tough questions, but I'll ask them in a soft way.
Well, I
So that
think you
way,
you know how to. I think a lot of people. It also comes with experience and knowing how to ask the question without coming across.
Yeah, because you can certainly ask it in the wrong way, and then you get Zlatan who wants to kill you. Zlatan never wanted to kill me, so that was I think I always did a pretty good job of asking him even tough questions. He was fine with that. So yeah, I mean, it's all part of that stuff. But if you're in the United States and you want to be considered a major sports league, then yeah, guys should talk, and that means that Chicharito, who's the most expensive player on the team, needs to talk.
Mhm.
And that comes with the territory. He's a designated player. I almost think that if the designated player is on the field, that they should be ready to talk after the game.
Agreed.
And we haven't seen that very much from the LA Galaxy this year. Christian Pavone doesn't really talk. And again, most of it is probably a language barrier more than anything. Christian needs a translator, so it's easier just to have native English speakers talk, or the guys who are bilingual, because there's a bunch of those guys as well. But Javier Hernandez should have no problems. He speaks English and Spanish, so he's fine with that. Jonathan actually speaks wonderful English, except he pretends that he doesn't.
Yeah.
He just gets nervous with it. I don't want to blame him. He's done such a great job of
He
learning
actually
and
does. He
doing that.
speaks really, really, really well, and
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. But I like that's what I said. This is America. This is what it is, and I don't think that's too much to ask. I
it's
just
not.
don't. I don't really. When you with all the where this league eventually wants to get to, I just don't
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah, COVID set that back this time. That's the real reason. I mean, we've been pretty successful at getting people to talk in the locker room. When they don't, it's a story. Right now, you don't get any of those stories. So, hopefully that returns whenever COVID goes away. Maybe next summer we'll be back in the locker rooms. Who knows? It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. Hopefully, But we'll see. We'll see. I know they'll wait for the fans. Um. So yeah, let me ask you this: does the Galaxy make it to the playoffs?
Uh, I mean, I would guess that the answer is probably no. Um, I don't see the teams that they have to play: LAFC, Portland, Seattle, RSL, and then Vancouver. I think is the last one, and maybe not 100% in that order, but all those teams. I mean, Seattle is one of the best. Portland's one of the best. LAFC is middle to above average this year. And so, it's one of the teams the LA Galaxy probably have the best chance of beating. RSL is a team the LA Galaxy could beat, but if you're looking at them winning 2 of their last 5 games, then they're not going to make, the MLS playoffs, and nor do they probably deserve to. So, yeah, they could squeak in. They're not that far away. If they get on a hot streak and they roll, yeah, they could get in. I wouldn't be surprised either way, Gio. This team is incomplete. This team is not a good team in terms of chemistry, but they're streaky. And so if they win a couple games, then they might win them all. Somebody said, "Would you be surprised if the LA Galaxy won MLS Cup?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "But how surprised would I be? Like, would I be like, oh my God, it should have never happened. This is Leicester City all
Oh,
over again."
100%
No, it's
surprised.
not.
Yeah.
It's I wouldn't be that surprised. I would be 70% surprised, like not 100% surprised. I'm like, no, this is
Mhm.
MLS. I've
Yeah.
watched this stuff happen before, so it's not that big a deal. But if the LA Galaxy get on a roll and they get streaky, Guillermo's shown that he's a streaky coach too. So if it's streaky and everything's working in the right direction, as my good co-host Eric would say, don't peak too soon. Maybe the LA Galaxy are just getting ready to peak at the right time.
That I mean that is a great answer. Yeah, and I think a lot will have to do with this weekend's game. Let me ask just this final one. Does Chicharito stay after the season? Um, or even if you're Galaxy, because from what I'm seeing from the Galaxy fans, they're very upset. But does he stay after the season?
I mean, you're going to have to find somebody to take him. It's always, it's the Jorgen Shelvik problem. It's the Michael Ciani problem, which we're mentioning Chicharito in the same terms of those guys. So that's it. He has some marketability still in Mexico, and maybe Chivas would like to have him back.
Yeah.
Maybe they can work something
Rumor
out.
that came
But
out today.
yeah, the rumor. I'll categorize it as fan fiction that came out about Chicharito. I don't see a market for him at his salary. So how much would the LA Galaxy have to give in order to make that happen? They're on the hook for another 10 million, basically, plus bonuses and some stuff. So maybe it ends up being 11 or 12 million after this year to Chicharito. So that's a lot of money. So if you only have to give up 5 million of that or 6 million of that, you're saving money. So there's some things to look at that, but yeah, it's difficult for me to understand how he can survive on this team for long, but at the same time, I think the Galaxy, we're pretty used to Giovanni Dos Santos and how long it took them to get rid of him. So in a lot of ways, I think that they will use the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse for this season. I think he's probably back next season only because there probably isn't a bunch of place to offload him, nor does AEG have the appetite to sort of just swallow that money. And so they're hoping that it will be better, but maybe there's a chance to move him somewhere in Mexico, but I think it comes at a great cost to the LA Galaxy in terms of they're going to have to kick in a whole bunch of money for that. So, we'll see. A loan somewhere, who knows? The LA Galaxy can get creative. Maybe another Hammerby loan. It's all sorts of things. So I don't think he's happy here right now in LA. I don't think the Galaxy are happy with him. I know the fans aren't happy with him. So a lot of things have to change. And the LA Galaxy have to start winning, and then he would have to be a reason for that winning in order for him to really gain any more trust. But it's been pretty bruised and battered so far. I don't know that he ever gets trusted again within the fan base. So, it's I guess that's a long way of saying I don't really know, but I would be surprised if he's gone for next season. I would think he would stay.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think his market has just gone down just within the season. But yeah, I guess we'll see how things end up this weekend and for the rest of the season for the LA Galaxy. Josh, for the people that already don't follow you, let the people know where they can follow you.
Yeah, for sure. Hit me up on Twitter at Galaxy Podcast. You can go to cornerofthegalaxy.com for all of our shows, all of our news, all that stuff, cornerofthegalaxy.com. And anywhere that you get your podcasts, and I mean pretty much anywhere, just type in Corner of the Galaxy and you can find us there.
Guys, that is Josh Guesman. Of course, I'm Gio Garcia. You can follow us at LA Soccer Hub. Make sure to vote. Made these vote shirts just to, promote the voting, have a soccer shirt. But yeah, make sure to give us a like. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to give it a 5-star rating. You can listen to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your music. Check us out. For Josh, this is Gio. Catch you guys next time. Peace. Let me just hit the stop. Okay.